Okay, welcome to The Automated. We're here. It's almost 6. It's exactly 6 right now. So we've got a great broadcast for you. We're starting a little bit early, but I just kind of like this with a bunch of coffee. So really thank you for coming with us. Thank you members as always and our free subscribers for supporting us. Like waking up with you guys and reporting what's actually on the news and what's going down in the world. Thank you for all our subscribers. And if you like what you hear and want the full briefing in your email inbox, check out our link in the description below. We've got a great broadcast too. We've got lots of different elements, and we've got one interview in the very end from Mr. Dick Gay himself from Sperm Racing Asia. So definitely stay with us and listen to the whole thing. Let's just get started. Okay, all right, today we've got two main news that I want to cover. One was kind of the first one is really kind of an extension of actually last week when we talked about Meta and how Meta's AI is coming out into the real world and interacting with the real world, right? And now we have found one thing. We have found that basically, we have found that OpenAI is also reminding us all about the same issue as well. So Kimi escaped a couple weeks ago, then Meta has also escaped, I think last Friday or last Thursday that we reported. And now OpenAI has officially announced it cannot roll whether its upcoming model, Astra, has hit this critical cybersecurity threat level. And under OpenAI's internal playbooks, this critical status means the model can autonomously sniff out zero-day software vulnerabilities, bypass defenses, and pull off high-level cyber attacks with zero human guidance. And what this means is it might not be, or it might be able to hack like an elite seasoned black hat hacker. So OpenAI responded. How did they respond? They froze specific internal operations for Astra to overall security protocols. OpenAI clarified Astra was not the culprit behind its Hugging Face breach. They're bringing external government agency and safety auditors just to put Astra through the ringer. And then Sam Altman posted on X that they still plan to release Astra broadly, claiming it's on good luck to restrict hyper-powerful AI to a chosen few. So, is OpenAI actually, let me have a step back here. Is OpenAI really kind of fearing stuff, or are they really, we call it cloud chasing, it's really trying to toot their own horn, make their own market essentially by boosting the valuation? Sam Altman actually kind of criticized Anthropic for doing the same thing. Are they doing the same thing over here? We don't know, but I generally think that they are trying to talk their own book and trying to promote their own thing. I think so. And like I said before, one can only protect oneself in this day and age, right? So we really don't know whether it's true or it's not, but protect yourself. This is all hype, everything else, they might be talking their own book, trying to raise their valuation at the end of the day. But we shall see, right? If every one of these AIs can come out and interact with the real world, it's not like I'm scared, but it is pretty interesting, and it's really coming to us, whether we believe it or not. It's really coming and interacting with us, and I find that pretty interesting nonetheless. Okay, moving on to the next piece of news. Anthropic will turn on auto mode for cloud code by default. So Anthropic is officially cutting the apron strings on its flagship programming tool starting August 14th, which is in a couple of days. The AI agent is flipping auto mode on by default for every Pro, Max, and Team user of Claude. So instead of stopping every 2 seconds to ask for a blessing, the system will now build, test, and edit continuously on its own. And it only hits the brakes if the task looks genuine, destructive, permanent, or attempts to reach outside your local project environment. Now, when Anthropic first unveiled auto mode back in March, it divided as a quiet opt-in experiment, but now it's not. Now, this decision did not happen in a vacuum. We report GitHub Copilot continues to expand its hands-off capabilities. Cursor and Replit built their entire platforms around unsupervised generation. And so I think Anthropic sees where the industry is headed to. Users want real execution, not just constant hand-holding, asking questions, and that type of thing. So, and this is report. Here's what the unsupervised pipeline looks like. You feed the goal you describe, your feature, your bug in plain language, map the architecture, and the agent breaks down the request down to smaller action items and code tweaks, and then it just basically, rather than waiting for you to sign off on every single file edit, it just, the agent powers through the entire build sequence that presents the completed result. So, bottom line, what we say is, making hands-free, the default setting is a bold statement about where software development is headed, and yeah, I've seen a lot of things. I mean, you use Beehive, it has different modes, ask, when we execute. I think Lovable Head actually has something similar as well. I don't like to use the execute kind of piece, everything on its own, because basically, frankly, it takes too much tokens. So it might be that as well, all right? This might be a ploy to try to get you to use tokens as much as possible, as quickly as possible, without you asking. I still like to ask. Not that I do think there's a misinterpretation of what's going on, but I definitely think that it's better, in my view, of asking. But it's interesting kind of where they're taking this. Again, it might be an attempt to try, or a tactic to try to get you to utilize all your tokens much faster as well. So we shall see. It might be a small tweak. It might be something fundamental as well, but we don't know. All right, let's move on to the next section. All right, we've got around the AI block, and we've got a few over here around the AI block that I want to talk about today. So, let's get on the first one. This is Claude versus GPT, and I believe this is screenshot C. In Gadget article, Claude versus ChatGPT, how these AI assistants differ. I find it kind of interesting that they actually posted something like this, but there's a clear winner in this battle of the artificial minds. ChatGPT was the first one. It's the first one to cross 1 billion weekly active, is what we reported on. But let's just see what it says. First, they compared the accuracy. Then, and they use an AI omniscience hallucination rate. And it says Claude has a significant leg up against ChatGPT. What can Claude do that ChatGPT cannot? And then 42% of Claude conversations revolve around personal usage, and 45% were related to work. Whereas OpenAI says that 70% is actually non-work related. That's pretty interesting. So we're definitely seeing that Claude is actually more productivity and OpenAI is more personal. I think OpenAI want to go personal first, or work related first. But we're definitely seeing that, which I think opens up a lot of different things as well, which makes the whole hardware thing pretty interesting as well, right? They want it to be personal. They want it to be intimate, intimate device. Let's take a look, and they compare actually some of the different tiers. It actually claims that ChatGPT getting worse in 2026. Didn't claim it, but they did actually ask the question. Yet the overall experience of using the app seems to be getting worse. If you feel this way, you're not wrong, because there are areas where the previous models perform better than last ones. One such area is the hallucinations. GPT-4o has a hallucination rate of 38% compared to GPT 5.6 Sol's 89%, which is actually pretty high. And then obviously OpenAI is beginning showing ads as well. And I've started to realize and see that. And the pricing is pretty similar between the two. I'll be interested to see what you think between the two. I generally get the sense from people and from my friends, people do generally prefer Claude for work. ChatGPT may be personal or a combination of personal and work. I generally like using ChatGPT. I think I've grown to like ChatGPT. I've grown to enjoy ChatGPT. I can go back to Claude. So I'm generally okay with almost everything. I think from a strategic level, for me, it works a little slightly better than Claude for right now, again. And I'm just kind of used to it. But if you have any preferences or comparisons, please let us know. It's always great to kind of hear the feedback on users and subscribers. Okay. Now, why don't we move on to the next section? In the next article, we've got AI billionaires pledge fortunes away in philanthropy wave. Can't pronounce anything today. Sunset's really nice outside. Okay, Type Buzz article. New generation of AI-rich philanthropists commit billions, raising questions about impact. I'd like to actually know who these billions are. The phenomenon mirrors the Giving Pledge launched by Bill Gates and Warren Buffett in 2010, which convinced dozens of billionaires to commit at least half their wealth to charity. All right, but who is it? So it's the wealthy people from OpenAI, NVIDIA executives. Most AI billionaire pledges function as a public promise with no penalties for backing out. A very expensive pinky promise, one foundation director told Wired on condition of anonymity. Some pledges come with strings that raise their own questions. Several AI billionaires have committed funds specific to AI safety research or accelerating AI development in specific domains, effectively using philanthropy to shape the technology's future trajectory. Critics argue this creates a circular dynamic where the people profiting most from AI get to define how society prepares for its consequences. So I'm going to go into more. It's pretty interesting. I think that's pretty cool. It's I didn't know that this is happening this way, and I think that's a pretty interesting phenomena. I definitely think that AI safety is definitely going to be one of the concerns going forward. It's going to be quite a critical issue. And I think that the more money given to that, I think the better. I generally also think that this is actually a good thing. I think too many tech billionaires have their own vested interests. Zuck, Sam, and that's somewhat to be expected, right? Because they're CEOs. So that's somewhat to be expected. And so the more billionaires that we have and trying to, not siphon, but trying to raise from that type of pool is better, I think, for the entire world. And that way we can actually steer concerns and ideas across a broader kind of swath of issues, AI safety issues, I think is a good thing ultimately. It kind of raises concerns. You know, you can pledge, but not put any of the money. That's how colleges work as well. So I think that's just a tactical thing. That's not necessarily a bad thing, a critical thing of the whole effort. It's more a tactical thing and a criticism of that. But ultimately, I do think it's a good thing. And that's kind of the system, the capitalist system in the US working, right? So you help mint a bunch of billionaires, and then they're the ones that contribute to your research or contribute to something better, more noble. Because I certainly do have a worry that, you know, we've captured this. There's this class that captured a lot of things. Companies have captured a lot of things, like Google, Facebook have captured a lot of things from all of us. And so, what's the mechanism, right, to come back or force us back into something that's a little bit more altruistic? And perhaps this is the thing, right? Giving to charitable foundations where we talk about AI safety and these concerns, which are really, really important to do. So I think that's a pretty interesting article, and I'm looking forward to that. And looking forward to actually all the progress that's being made in that particular space. Okay, all right, next one. That was a bit serious there. I'm a serious guy. Okay, all right, next article, Cloudflare is launching KiteSurf, a browser built for AI agents. And there's this whole hullabaloo in that the internet is really built for, well, there's this whole hullabaloo, which is the internet is built for like AI agents, which I kind of believe. And there's a whole hullabaloo, which is like the whole, you know, blockchain was the infrastructure for AI agents. And I think that's just a bunch of nonsense, really. The internet was built for the internet. Cloudflare is saying that most of the stuff will be built for AI agents. I believe that, 100%. But whether it's the blockchain, not so much. KiteSurf is a cloud-hosted browser designed specifically for AI agents. And let's see, a browser designed for agent needs to be able to manage context windows, performance, token costs, scalability. Also faces a different threat model because an AI browser could be subject to vulnerabilities like prompt injection attacks and more. And decided to build KiteSurf just 12 weeks ago, and it runs entirely on top of its serverless platform called Workers. I played around with Workers before. It's pretty interesting. It also has this kind of thing where it says, I remember Cloudflare actually has said, that I don't know, something like 75% of the internet will be run by agents rather than humans. So didn't actually talk about this in here. So I do think, look, ultimately this is pretty interesting. I don't think this will be the last kind of AI agent specific browser that we'll see, but I definitely do think that this is the new world. AI agents will be running a lot of this stuff, which is hence why I say be careful, because if it's AI agents running, you just can't compete as a human being. So yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. I'm going to weave that into something else. Okay, let's move on to the next screenshot, which is screenshot F. New Mexico court orders Meta to pay additional $567 million in child safety case. This is a TechCrunch article, and they were supposed to pay that regarding social media harms and addiction. I think it's around actually child stuff as well. Push notifications to underage users in the state also to be paused between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. and their usage should be limited to 90 hours a month, which amounts to about 3 hours per day. Meta said obviously that they're going to appeal the judgment. You would expect that. And for years, here's a company spokesman. For years, Meta knew its platforms were harming. Here's the Attorney General, sorry. For years, Meta knew its platforms were hurting New Mexico's kids, from feeding a youth mental health crisis to connecting predators with children. It chose engagement and profit over their safety. Today, Meta is paying for that choice. This judgment holds the company accountable for the damage it caused to its children, our families, and our schools, and enforces real change to how Meta operates in New Mexico. And Meta is facing several other cases in the country. One of the notable cases is a joint lawsuit by 33 states, which is consultant in Oakland, California federal court. Several other states like Tennessee have brought their own cases against the company. Okay, the whole point, not predicament, but the whole predicate, right? This whole thing was predicated upon startups, companies being able to move fast. And move fast and break things, and move fast before you have a chance to kind of think about it. Move fast because that's what the product requires. Move fast before the regulations caught up. That's actually one of the key things, for example, like Uber, right? So move fast before the regulations on taxis can catch up. And before you do that, you're already in the market, you're the first one, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This was kind of Travis Kalanick's playbook, and I actually saw Travis in the offices of SoftBank with Masayoshi-san when I was there in Japan, trying to raise for my own fund, specifically for SoftBank as well. And that's the whole point of this whole game, right, is to move faster. And so I think now it's finally caught up, and it's funny, it's taken at least 20 years for this to happen. And will they have the money to be able to do this, to pay it off? Yes. Will they probably appeal and drag it up? Yes, they'll probably do all that as well. They'll probably find some other way to be able to skirt it. I find that it's important that's why I talk about these issues specifically, particularly around AI front and center, because obviously our regulatory environment is not fast enough to catch up, and these tech companies are run very, very fast to be able to avoid some of this. That's part of the game, right? So good news, things are catching up. Bad news is it's only going to get worse, and they've got an advantage. So yeah, all in all, good thing, but our regulatory environment does definitely need to change. Okay, all right, next article we've got, see, I've had this bit of a system, but it's obviously not working. Chinese AI Kimi has moved out, exposing AI. Yeah, basically, it's gone wrong. Moonshot's AI Kimi has skipped containment, exposing AI safety gaps. This has happened, I think, Friday. That's right. Was it Friday? Friday. We said Friday earlier. Okay, so it was a routine, what should have been a routine cybersecurity testing, sandbox environments, blah, 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 from the backbone safety research. And then it came out, and what did it actually do? Well, Moonshot hasn't public commented on the incident. What did it do? No one really knows here. The incident also highlights the global nature of AI safety challenges, whether it's a Chinese model or American one or something developed in Europe, likely not. The fundamental questions about containment and control remain the same. Yeah, that's really kind of the main issue, isn't it? It's interacting into the real world. That's really kind of what it is. I don't have a comment on this particularly, because I definitely think that it is, it's just here, right? It is here to stay. We've seen this over and over again. We've seen the OpenAI, we've seen the ChatGPT, we've seen this with Claude. It's here to stay. I actually have no other comment other than that. Just, again, be careful on what you need to do. Be careful on some of your key things that you are thinking about and you are considering in terms of what you need to do in terms of AI. Yeah, I don't have actually kind of any additional thoughts. I think I've said it over and over again. It's critically important to think about these things. It's critically important to protect yourself. And this is a technology that's finally slightly different, right? Because it's not like you're interacting with it. It actually came to you, and that's slightly different as well, right? That's slightly fundamentally different. And so it's going to hit you whether you want to or not, whether you decided to or not. I do think that's a fundamental difference between this technology and something else. Okay, moving on, we are going to screenshot H here, which is the planned Amazon. Yeah, this article didn't actually have a header, this TechCrunch one. Just kind of wasn't very good for our presentation purposes. Planned Amazon data center could become the biggest climate polluter in the US. Oh, so the residents actually had it right. As part of a planned data center in Pecos County, Texas. Don't know where that is, even though I'm from Texas, Houston, Texas. Amazon is investing in an on-site power plant that could become the largest source of climate pollution in the United States. The New York Times said the plant would burn natural gas and is permitted to release 33 million tons of carbon dioxide per year, more than any other power plant in the United States. Oh, geez, okay. AI has already a significant impact on Amazon's carbon emissions, which it reported were up 16% last year. The wrong direction for a company that pledged to eliminate its carbon emissions by 2040. No one does that anymore, I suppose, now. It could get worse on Amazon. And tech companies back the development of huge natural gas plants to support the power-hungry data centers. The world looks, the Amazon spokesperson said, of course they would say this. The world looks different now that when we co-founded the climate pledge. Our commitment hasn't changed. Yeah, that's a whole bunch of baloney. I don't know. It's not a good thing. You know, definitely not a good thing. Definitely, you know, it's dangerous. It's not good for the climate. And the thing that I don't appreciate is the fact that, you know, it's not Jeff Bezos that will be paying for this, right? It will be the future generations of him. Well, they'd be too wealthy to really care, his generation, or his kids. So, yeah, and ultimately, I don't think it's a good thing. But we definitely need these data centers. And I actually had this conversation with somebody. Shooting the data centers up into space, SpaceX style, is incredibly hard. It's not easy to do. And is, you know, Elon the only one to be able to do that? No, but it's not an easy thing to do. So ultimately, yeah, it's a difficult one. We need it, but it doesn't help us. I think we kind of wait and see on this one. I think it's this is not the only kind of piece of news that will come up. Okay, all right, let's move on to our next section, training tools. Okay, all right, we've skipped the AI tutorials. I just had a bit of an error here. I put this on the AI tutorials piece when it should have been, or sorry, include the AI tutorials piece when actually we didn't have AI tutorials. We only have training tools, so apologize for that. So we've got our training tools today, which is our 3. We've got, for the everyday writers and communicators, we've got Unevent, acts as a lightweight privacy first. That's important. And they're built straight into your browser. It's one keystroke shortcut where it writes text in your chosen field into polished, direct, or warm tones. For the AI power users and developers, running automated web tasks usually requires logging into separate blank browser windows every single time. Ego Lite solves this by giving external AI agents like Claude, Cursor, or Codex their own isolated spaces inside your actual Chromium setup. So a bit of a sandbox. Agents inherit your active logins, cookies, and extensions, and allow them to research automated SaaS back offices or handle bookings in the background while you continue browsing normally. That's kind of cool. So it's a lighter piece that you can interact with. And for the aspiring founders and solo creators, taking a business idea from concept to launch usually requires a full team or deep coding experience. DoAny serves as an autonomous company builder that converts plain language prompt into an operational online venture that handles market research. That's kind of cool. Builds the initial product and storefront, sets up customer acquisition funnels, and manages support inquiries. That is actually pretty cool. I think I've heard of this, right? Where you can actually just build anything in a box, while letting you retain 100% of your brand and blah, blah, blah. These are all pretty cool. I think I'll comment on the last one. Well, first of all, definitely try them out. Let us know what you think in the comment section below so that we all have a sense of actually what's good and what's not. But definitely, I think the last one is good. I've got a thesis about solo entrepreneurs that you'd be able to create solo entrepreneurs out of nothing from AI. And I think that's pretty interesting, ultimately. And yeah, but this one does market research, so you can basically build your deck, builds the initial product and storefront, sets up customer acquisition funnel, so it does the whole gamut for you, which I think is pretty powerful and pretty interesting, ultimately. Yeah, so this is pretty cool, in fact, and I'm pleased to see more of that type of stuff come to the forefront so that more and more people can be entrepreneurs. So I think ultimately that is a very, very good thing. Okay, all right, let's move on to the next section. All right, so we've got the workout of the day today. We've got the how to have your AI build your own online store. Actually, speaking of the devil, of what we talked about, AI building your own personal stuff. All right. So let's see. So we've got a 4-step model here. You tell AI if you're dropshipping phone case or selling handmade candles, the vibe check, you pick your colors and fonts. This AI builds a custom design, doesn't look like GeoCities. Hey, I like GeoCities before. The build in minutes, the AI generates a site where they write the descriptions and sets up the checkout. The stock tools like Store Build AI even come with winnable products. And then the bots actually handles most of the stuff. So, and then we talked about a few ones that actually work. 10 Web, describe your business in plain English and generates a layout, images, and content in minutes. Ucraft Next, you see Copilot is getting rave reviews for being powerful but user-friendly. And the go-to for dropshippers connects storebuild.ai. Very, very cool. All right. Very cool. I definitely will suggest some of these things. I think that it's currently powerful to be able to do stuff like that, which is ultimately a very, very good thing in life. So definitely try these tools and let us know what you think in the comment section below. Okay, all right, on to the next section. Now, this is our time for interview where we basically bring in Mr. Decay into the interview. Mr. Decay is a friend. He's Mr. Sperm Racing. He had come to Asia to build Sperm Racing, and I look forward to his event. It was a very, very good event. And it was great to actually get him to interview as well, because then I can get, a better understanding of actually what he does and what he likes to do. So without further ado, let's call in and let's talk to Mr. Dick. Yay. Okay, welcome to the automated show, actually, Mr. Sperm Racing, aka Mr. Gay.
Yeah, my name is Dick Gay. It's my stage name. I'm really glad to be on your show, Tak. Thank you so much for having me.
No worries. Now, first of all, you staged a very, very awesome kind of exhibition yesterday here in Hong Kong, or I'm in Shenzhen, you're in Hong Kong. And so it was very well attended. I was there. But just kind of before we dig into that issue, How long have you been associated with sperm racing? When did you start? What became of the
Yeah.
why did you even want to do that?
I mean, so to start with like Hong Kong, I really just decided I wanted to do a Hong Kong sperm race. Last month, I was just like, I kind of want to do this. And then a few weeks ago, I have met a lot of local influencers, a lot of, local venue owners, made a lot of friends. We became friends. And I realized that, it was really possible to do, especially in a short amount of time. And, I gave it a shot and it really just went wonderfully, especially for like, kind of only 2 weeks of setup, 2 weeks of promotion, please. Um, and, I, that was kind of the start for Sperm Race Hong Kong. It had been like a dream for a while, but, and execution, only a few weeks ago, we decided to do it. But for sperm racing, how long have I been involved with that? Since the inception of the idea. But back in November of 2024, I was a sperm donor in college, and I initially got rejected. And after getting rejected, I was like, how is this possible? I'm a young guy, I'm a healthy guy, and I found out that my sperm had been kind of messed up by heat exposure from running to the clinic, and heat exposure from wearing like tight underwear and different stuff. And I was like, what? And I just kind of went down a rabbit hole and learned everything I could about what makes sperm slow, what makes sperm higher quality. And I kind of applied all of those learnings to myself, and I went back to the clinic about a few weeks later, and they accepted me. And this was kind of a transformational thing. As funny as it was, because I was just like, you can change your health, especially with sperm health, in a matter of weeks, in a matter of days, even sometimes. And it is also an indicator for your overall general health. And I remember when I was doing everything I could to make my sperm as healthy as possible. It was the best I've ever felt, like health wise. So that was a factor in just becoming fascinated with sperm and with the optimization of sperm. And then, previously and around that time, I just was kind of digging in and becoming very aware of the decline of sperm health and how that is an epidemic, and the kind of the outcomes of that, not only when it comes to fertility, but also intergenerational health consequences, where when a parent's sexual health, sperm health is, compromised, that means that the pregnancy has a higher risk of being compromised. And that leads to risks in, embryo development, miscarriage, and even chronic disease in children. And to me, that's just the biggest, most important thing. And, all of these kind of ideas were floating together, and like, hey, this isn't like a very important problem. It is pretty simple to solve. You just have to get people to have like better sperm quality, which is, easy to control. It only takes a few weeks, and it's very practical how to do it. And, and all these ideas are floating around, and it was very clear that the solution was in advocacy, and the solution was in bringing awareness to it. And, that kind of all boiled into what sperm racing is today.
Now, what I appreciate about the fact, and we talked about this, is the seriousness of the issue of decline of sperm health, and sperm count, and the global fertility crisis as well. But then how did you get from the seriousness of that issue, though, to the theatrical, let's do a WWF, kind of standoff, UFC type of style, because if you do that, then you start kind of gravitating towards, right, is this a spectacle? Is this serious, right? So how did you, when did you kind of think this is actually the way to do advocacy? And then, you know, the risks of actually, not being so perceived as not being so serious.
Well, like two things. One, you know, previously I was kind of looking at serious ways to do advocacy, but you know, I think something that a lot of, you know, public health advocates struggle with is finding ways to actually get people engaged, and get people curious, and get people wanting to do stuff. And very naturally, you know, that's where edutainment comes in. That's where the theatrics come in. That's where the fun is supposed to come in. You're supposed to make people excited about learning. You're supposed to make people excited about public health, and excited about solving the problem, right? And very naturally, that becomes sperm racing. That becomes a sperm race. And within a sperm race, you know, the theatrics of it, the WWE walkouts, the talking on stage between the racers, and
fights,
the yelling and the screaming, and the fights and the club, and all of that, and the promotion, and you know, the jokes about cum, but but it's, you know, it's fun, it's funny, it's what gets people to kind of enjoy themselves, and you know, kind of bring more attention to it. But it's a flywheel, because you know, people will come in, they'll, because they saw something funny, they'll kind of learn a lot about fertility. They'll see something funny again, they'll share that, and then it's a perpetual cycle that goes viral. And all the meanwhile, we get to spread an incredibly important message, and get to start and really important conversations. And you know, I think especially in a city like Hong Kong, you know, we're in China, get to break taboos that I think are really you know, hurtful to public health. But and also, you know, when it comes to like the funniness and the fanfare, I can't help myself. I am like too ridiculous of a person. I'm like a goofball. My heart, I care so seriously about this issue, and that is the paramount thing. But you know, things will always be fun and always be theatric and funny, because that's just who I am as a person.
Sure, and I think that's really that's kind of how we bonded. But I think that's really kind of what I appreciate about your background is the fact that there is the seriousness of the issue, right? And the desire to actually kind of advocate for public health, but then on the other hand, understanding that the only way to break these taboos and make it relevant is to make it theatrical. That's the only logical solution, which brings me kind of to the point of where we stood yesterday, right? So it was, you know, painting the scenario. It was a rooftop. There was sperm, a moving sperm projected in the other building. But yeah, the conversations that I heard, I've never heard from anybody else, you know, of that age and Gen Z, that said that they cared about this, that they were open to this, they were okay with seeing their sperm depicted, you know, on a screen, but it forced them to have that conversation, not only with themselves, but with their significant others and with, you know, people at large. So I certainly think that you know, that openness, I think, was achieved. In your opinion, do you think, what do you think of the event? And do you think the openness of the conversation was what you hope to engender in this particular event compared to some of the other events?
I think that it was a fantastic, you know, proof of concept for Asia. The turnout was amazing. I think that, you know, everybody had a great time, and that's really exciting. I think that we were able to get, you know, a good, you know, message across to the audience and to the media, which I think we achieved all of our goals. Going into the next events, you know, I do want things to be, you know, I want there to be kind of a really good looking and a more kind of official looking things for the health angle. I think maybe a little bit more, you know, structure and entertainment behind the way that we broadcast the races. They were very simple this time. We can make them more complex and interesting next time. I think that, maybe a little bit more coaching with our racers and like sitting down and having really, really serious conversations about, sperm motility so that, they're more educated, and when they're on the stage, they can educate. I think during the first event is when we really had the best version of that, because, with the sperm racers for that event, we had like about a month of prep time versus, a lot of the racers we kind of locked in like last week,
I see.
For this one. So, with the first event, I lived with both of those guys. I lived with Tristan. I lived with Asher. Every single moment of every single day, we were talking about fertility, and having very serious conversations about how we're gonna, conduct ourselves on stage, and exactly what our messaging is going to be, and the things that we want to teach people. So, when you go back and watch that first event, I really do think that there's a good performance from those two racers who are now some of my best friends.
Right.
And I just want to bring that same level and caliber to every single sperm race, and I think our racers did amazing tonight. But going into the future ones, I do want a bigger emphasis on the science and on understanding of the science from all the racers on stage.
No, actually, let me press upon you a little bit. So when I think originally there were supposed to be 6 scheduled racers. It turned out to be 8. And they were mostly kind of local Hong Kong guys. When you first approached them and tried to get them on, like, how was that? Were they like, oh no, this is a bit too much?
Oh my God.
How was that process? And then, tell us a little bit more.
They came to me.
Oh, really?
I didn't have to convince anybody. Yeah, no, like, I remember they came to me, and, I got like, at first it was like Harry, Jazzy, and Musa, and the 3 of them came to me. And, at that point I had already had maybe like 12 other people I was in talks with who were just like, kind of local residents, of like varying backgrounds. Like, hey, I want to represent Hong Kong. I want to do this. And, I'm like, okay, well, what do we think? And, when I met Harry, Jazzy, and Musa, these are local kind of health influencers that had a really good community and a really good audience. And, they were supremely helpful in, kind of putting together the event. So, they came to me. And, FH Productions with Lewis, it was amazing. We filmed a YouTube video together. I think it's going to come out next week or something. And, but I didn't have to go to them. They came to me because I really do think that, in only a very short amount of time, the, idea of like there being a sperm race in Hong Kong just kind of goes throughout the community. And, a lot of internet people see this and influencers see this, and they know that it's viral, and because they have that viral sense, and they know that it's, going to be good content for them, and that it's going to be fun for them. Right. And the thing that really kind of confirmed everybody, whenever I had those like kind of initial conversations, was, hey, I just want you to know, the real mission behind this and the real purpose is we want to, improve people's sperm health. And that this is about fertility, and this is about science, and this is about like a good cause. And when everybody kind of understood that, everybody was just like, I want to be involved. I'll do whatever we need to do. And exceptional support from every single one of our racers.
Yeah, I actually talked to Tyler as well, and on the side, and I talked to him a little bit about kind of the health issues and the need, right, to make it and in fact, I was actually talking to the CNN producers as well, saying that, look, this is an issue that should be as logical, easy to discuss as anything else, as egg freezing, right? For example, well, God's sakes, I mean, we are in the 21st century, right? I mean, we should definitely, this should be an objective thing to discuss, to talk about, for couples to discuss. And it should not be a taboo, and if we can talk about eggs freezing, then surely we can talk about sperm freezing and sperm health and all that type of jazz, right? And when they heard that, I think they were quite shocked, but it made sense.
Yeah.
I think that you know, I one of the maybe like interesting parts of sperm racing is how it kind of like leads to these types of conversations, and how when you see a massive crowd of people looking at sperm and celebrating it and kind of going bananas, that it makes, you know, even bystanders or people looking in from the outside say like, oh, okay, this is kind of okay. It kind of moves that, you know, it shifts the Overton window in the right direction.
Right.
And I really do think that a lot of good is going to come from that.
Yeah. But and then, you know, partly next to me, people were talking about, oh yeah, it pays to be younger, but yes, let's not smoke a little bit more. Let's be a little bit more healthier. So yes, there is, you're right, shifts the Overton window, and it makes people more aware of, yeah, the things that we're doing, that's probably not healthy, even though they probably knew it. But I think it's just being up there and present. I think just, it does shift it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being present, and then also just like, I think a lot of people, when they think about their health, they think about their health, right? And it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to drink alcohol, if I'm going to smoke, if I'm going to do all of these things, it just, you know, oh, I guess it's going to give me heart problems, it's going to be lung problems, liver problems, but it also gives you sperm problems. And people aren't thinking about it in that way. I mean, of course it does, but you know, of course alcohol gives you sperm problems, but you know, I feel like you could talk to a lot of people and be like, you know, alcohol gives you sperm problems. And it's like, well, you know, I know people that get drunk and get pregnant all the time. Right. And it's like, but that's not how it works. Right.
Right.
It's like, you know, not all sperm are equal.
Right.
You know, you get it. If you're a man and you're, you know, drinking a lot and you get somebody pregnant, you know, that child is going to be at way higher risk of, you know, developing diseases and at way higher risk of miscarriage. So, you know, these things are, you know, important to be aware of, and important to kind of like spread throughout, you know, the population, just so that we can kind of, you know, have people make more better decisions. And so that, you know, especially, you know, when people are ready to conceive and have a child, that they start thinking about it in, you know, really proactive ways.
Yes.
Where it's like, you know, I think, you know, very few racers on that stage, you know, or, you know, people that are abstaining from alcohol. I know Musa does, and he's, I think, probably the healthiest guy on that stage. Maybe him and Tyler, but like you don't have to, you know, abstain from alcohol to have a healthy child. You don't have to, you know, be perfect to have a healthy child. But, you know, if you want to give your child the best shot, and you want to give pregnancy the best shot, and you want to, you know, do it, you know, the right way, all you need is just 72 days, 90 days, you know, where you abstain from a few different things, and, you know, kind of like check all the boxes, and, you know, cross all the T's, dot all the I's, you know, get good sleep, you know, eat well, avoid different pollutants, you know, avoid, you know, drugs and alcohol. And like, you know, just doing that, avoid heat exposure. That's really important one that people do not know about. Avoid heat exposure when you're trying to conceive. You know, doing that will give your kid a better shot. Right. And it doesn't take that much to, you know, abstain for just like 90 days.
Right. Well, and also what I appreciate about this type of event and sperm racing in general is also, to your point, most people only consider when they're conceiving. And by attracting Gen Z, when attracting, you know, they were young guys, right? Like you said, 18, 19-year-olds there. Yeah. But just forwarding that topic to them, they're not thinking about conceiving anyway. They shouldn't be, at least. But at least forwarding that conversation and saying, this is something that you might want to consider when you're conceiving. But even if you're not, these are factors that let's have that conversation now. It gives them more awareness so that when they want to conceive, they're making the right choices. And they're also making the right choices now, right? For later down the
road. Yeah, absolutely. I think that, you know, conversations around sexual health should, you know, start young. They should start in the classroom.
That's right.
You know,
I agree.
This is stuff that should be taught to, you know, people at the high school level, you know, when you're taking your sex ed class, because people are always learning about, you know, the different stuff that it takes to not have kids, you know, remember to wear condoms, remember to not get, STDs, remember to do all this stuff. But, they should also be taught, hey, if you do want to have a kid, these are the things that you should do to make sure that that kid is healthy. You should avoid these, these different substances, while you're trying to conceive. As a man, your sperm quality is going to dictate the quality of the pregnancy and the quality of the child's life. So, you should know that. Everybody should be taught that. And I think that, and it's the same conversation with women where it's like, be very cautious during your pregnancy, which women are. But men are not so cautious during their sperm development cycle because they just don't know about it.
That's right. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and move kind of towards kind of the last phase and really talk about vision and ambition. Look, you said you had a vision, wanted to do it in Asia. Why do you want to focus on Asia, right? First of all, why do you want to focus on Asia?
Well, I think Asia, this is the most populated continent on the earth. There's billions of people here. And I think that if I can get the message just to more people, who are, aware, and who can have healthy kids, that means that, the next generation of Asia is going to be even healthier. Next, I think that especially in some East Asian countries like Japan, Korea, China, especially the most developed countries in Asia, fertility is a big issue. The declining fertility rates, and that is connected to sperm quality. Not totally, but it is. And so I think that it's something that people are, thinking about, but maybe they're, not talking about all the time. And I think that this brings an important angle to a conversation that's already happening here. Next, I think that Asia is a really great place for kind of creating competition. I think that there's I think that like a South Korea versus Japan is a really exciting matchup.
I see.
I see. If to do Hong Kong versus Singapore is a really exciting matchup. So I think there's a lot of really cool matchups here. And then on top of that, I think, at least in comparison to the West, in the West, you talk about sperm racing and you talk about this different stuff. And of course, I'm going to be doing tours in America and tours in Europe and everywhere. But I think people are more comfortable talking about sexual health in the West. So I think that, shattering taboos here is actually even, we get an even more important result. And so those are some of the reasons why I'm attracted to Asia. But and also for me, I just think it's fun. And I think doing a tour in Asia is really cool. I get to meet a lot of cool people. I get to meet you. I get to take out a lot of new friends in a different part of the world and find lots of new and crazy opportunities.
And then on that, fair enough. So that all makes sense. The competition from a content level, it's better. There's a lot more opportunities for viral content. From a fertility perspective, from a scientific perspective, there's much more of an impact that you can make here from a public advocacy perspective as well. So where do you want to take this? Final question then. Where do you want to take Sperm Racing Asia? Is it literally a league? And what's your timeline? And what do you think is going to be the big thing?
So my vision right now is we're going to do a full tour this year before the end of the year. Of as many places as they can, probably like a new city every week, if possible, which I think would require a little bit of investment and some strong sponsor relations in different countries. I did this race myself. I had a lot of help from you, the venue, the racers, but I'm a solo operator on this. To do a Sperm Race Asia tour, I don't necessarily think I could do that as a solo operator. I'm probably going to have to hire a few people to help out. And that's going to require some kind of, strong sponsorship opportunity, some strong sponsorship, deals ahead of time. And some structure and I think investment, which is, it's the stuff I'm going to be exploring in like the next week, 2 weeks, finding investors, finding sponsors to make a tour possible. And the whole point of this tour being establishing a kind of living, breathing sperm racing league, Sperm Race Asia here, and making it something that can last, and that we could just do it easier every single time, a tour, and make it something that hopefully, like, I don't even have to be here for it to live, and that people can kind of just host these events on their own, and that it can just kind of take on a life of its own. That's my goal long term. And for this tour, I just think bringing it, the first sperm race in China, the first sperm race in Japan, the first sperm race in South Korea, and so on, just to kind of expose people to it and develop these early relationships, all over the world, so that we can make it established in kind of every corner of the continent, and kind of get people excited about this new thing.
Got it. Well, looking forward to hearing more from the fundraising, and then to the rest of this year. Let's make sperm racing great again. Smaga.
Yeah.
Spaga.
Maga.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Smart. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed that. That was Mr. Dick Gay again from Sperm Racing. We are starting to get here into the day. Thanks again for joining this broadcast and listening to the news. The lighting isn't actually very good today. And thanks for listening to this, and hopefully see you in the next section. Reminder again, if you like it, join us in the link is in the description below, and hope to see you in the next broadcast. Okay, welcome to